I'd like to call this meeting to order. If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. Thank you for coming to our meeting. And before we start, I just want to review our core values that we have decided on to work on for the year. So they're collaboration, family, integrity, perseverance, respect, and trust. And as we do our work tonight, we hope that we will adhere to all of these core values. This is a business meeting tonight, and it's being held both in person and virtually through Zoom in compliance with RSU 38 policy BED, remote participation in school board meetings. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the YouTube, marinacook.org YouTube channel. So without further ado, we have a very special present. Oh, wait a minute. I keep forgetting that we have one person that's on the board that's on Zoom. So we have to do an attendance and a roll call. One of these days, we probably won't be doing this, but I keep forgetting we have to keep doing it. Sorry.
So
ahead,
attendance and all votes will be done through roll call. So when your name is called, please cast your vote with the three available options of yes, approve, no, disapprove, or abstain. Board members, please respond when you hear your name called. And the member that's on Zoom, we want to make sure that you can hear us and we can hear you as we do the roll call. So very quickly, David G.
Yes, here.
Jade.
Here.
Annie.
Here.
Dane is absent. Tyler
Here.
is the one online. Good. Christine.
Here.
Kathy.
Here.
Patty.
Here.
Rebecca.
Here.
Betty.
Here.
Sean may join us later. Kelty.
Hi. Hello. Here.
David T.
Here.
And Esme and Eric informed us that they would not be able to make tonight's meeting. Back to you, Kathy.
Okay, now, without further ado, we have a special presentation tonight. So, Mr. Meserve, if you would like to come up and say a few words, we will honor the golf team.
Definitely way too low. Yeah, so I obviously I have multiple roles that I do in this district, and one that I've done for 18 years now, pretty much ever since I started teaching at the high school, was coach the golf team. It's a passion of mine. It's an outlet that I really enjoy playing golf and working with the players. This year, we were fortunate enough to have a really great team. Some of the members are here tonight, so I'll ask them to stand up in just a second. And those of you that are not familiar with golf, it's an individual sport, but it's also a team sport. It's a really hard one to coach in the moment. We're actually not allowed to coach when they're on the course. So I have to wait pretty much till they get off the green, going to the next tee. That's the moment that I can try to, make sure that they're on the right track, talk to them about stuff I've seen. And it takes a lot of wherewithal from the team to really put themselves in a good mental position. Anyone who's played golf knows that it's pretty frustrating at times. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, and there's a lot of stuff that you think can go right all the time. So for a season, it's a really huge accomplishment for this group to win the state championship. During the state championship, it's almost a 5.5 hour round where you're out there. You don't know how anyone else is doing. You're not quite sure how you're doing compared to the team. So, it can be a little nerve wracking, takes a lot of patience. And this team's done great this year, really came together as a group and trusted each other too. You have to trust that someone else is going to step up and be there in case you don't have a great hole or a great round. And they did that all throughout the year. So I'm really glad that you all could recognize them tonight for winning the Class C state championship for golf. And we'll ask the team members to come up. Just stand right here by the podium. It's all right. Don't be shy. I'm not asking you to talk. Just stand up here and get recognized. So this is some of the team. We had 14 members on the team. 6 of them were there for the state tournament, but all of them definitely contributed throughout the season, just as being a great team overall.
So I'm going to recognize them individually, and I'll give you their certificates so you can pass them on to them, okay? So I don't think you want to stand right there. Okay, so we'll start with Lillian Toy. Hopefully I pronounce all your names right. Keegan McClure. Okay. Wyatt Folsom.
Summary.
Yes. Brandon Chilton. Hopefully I said that right. Eli Smith. Mason Pear. James Marr. Chase Knight. Benjamin Jewett. Easton Howard. Claire Dwyer. Liam Cromit, sorry. Carter Conway. Ethan Chilton. So before you guys go, I just would like the board to please stand and give them all a round of applause for their great season. Thank you all. Great job.
Is it safe to say that they can leave if they want to head out for the night?
They can stay and listen to the rest of
I tried to talk them into that, but I'm not.
They're all leaving. Thank you for coming. Congratulations. Congratulations. So now we have our student reports from the middle school. We have Lila Gurney, Bo Whittemore, and Taylor O'Donoghue. Ready? Come on up.
On the Royal team, we have been learning lots in each class. In one of our classes, Disconnections, Connections with Miss Satterfield, we have been learning about, oh, thank you. Yeah. We have been learning about body systems and how they work. So far, we have dissected an earthworm, a starfish, and on Friday, we will be dissecting a frog. We also have been looking closely about what those animal systems do and how they do that. In our other class, Life, Death, and the Human Animal with Miss Ryder, we have been learning about diseases and sicknesses in our body and how we can get them and give them. We've been doing different activities to show how they can spread. In our other class with Miss Gilbert, we have been finishing up presentations about our native Maine animal slideshows, and we are going to be switching over to plants and how they grow and how they reproduce. In 8th grade math, we have been understanding linear functions and how they can be or they can't be linear. We have been using graphs, tables, and equations. In 7th grade math, students have been learning about multiplication, division of rational numbers, and will soon be converting fractions to decimals next. For 6th graders, they have been working on finding the volume of rectangular prisms, and the whole team during literacy, we have been working on character development and how our books show that.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Carter. So I'm not sure what happened to Bo. I don't think you can do it this year, but I'm doing it this year.
Well, thank you for filling in.
All right. So, sorry, I'm a little congested today. So, I'm going to start with student government. So, in September, student government was sponsoring a school spirit day in support of all the student athletes, and everybody was encouraged to dress in black and gold. In October, student government sponsored a Halloween door decorating contest based on a popular Halloween book or movie. Doors were judged on how well the decorations communicated the book or movie creativity and originality. Coming up on November 8th, the student government is holding a mock election for Maine's next governor. Students will vote for their choice for governor during advisee using a Google form. Votes will be totaled and announced at the end of the next day. And additionally, for the week of November 7th through 11th, student government is working on ideas and activities to recognize National Kindness Week, and they're making posters to honor our veterans for Veterans Day. To end the month, student government is sponsoring a student favorite theme day, where you wear another day where you wear your PJs to school, and this will all be happening last few days before Thanksgiving break. On Sebago team, they're finishing up their narrative writing unit by completing and sharing their Halloween narrative stories with their peers. They've been exploring the state of Maine through research into Maine's industries, Maine government, and Maine wild animals, as well as getting outside and collecting leaves to learn how to identify leaves and trees in our woods. Students have been working on hands-on projects such as designing and completing a cutting board, painting, string art, wood burning signs, making fleece blankets, and learning how to cook. So then Acadia recently had a field trip to Acadia National Park at Skeeter Point for a few days. There we had classes including geology, phenology, and map making. We also got to study invasive species and learn how to use a GPS and learn about nocturnal animals. In Mr. Holman's class, SNAP and What Goes Up, we've been working on a lot of big projects. In What Goes Up, students made models of the solar system in which the planets had to be the right size relative to each other, and they also had to have the right distance from the sun to each other. Students made both 3D and 2D models. We've also been learning about the Voyager and DART space missions, as well as the Big Bang. In Mr. Holman's other class, SNAP, we've been making cars powered by a single mousetrap. We've been learning about forces and resistances like gravity, inertia, friction, and momentum. Our ELA classes are doing book groups about space themes and working on our narrative writing stories. Students are learning about literary techniques, structures, and themes. Math is working with geometry, rates, and ratios. Sixth graders have been combining their learning about polygons, prisms, and pyramids and the engineering of a design process to design their tents. Thank you.
Thank you, Carter.
On Moose team, we have been learning about mutations in genetics, also narrative writing and reading. In 8th grade math, they are finishing up functions and graphing. Moxie is going on a trip to the First Amendment Museum inside the capital of Maine tomorrow, November 3rd, and are starting to combine informational writing with Maine studies to create a documentary. World language in German, there are some people that are going to Germany soon, so they have been learning about how to order things in German and speak simple sentences fluently. In Spanish, they are finishing up their projects about Hispanic people and the culture. In French, we have been learning about ER verbs and how to speak about actions in ourselves. In UAs, in art, we have people have been exploring pop culture through drawings and paintings. Also, they made whistles in shapes of things that they think represent American culture. And in health, we have been learning about communication and how alcohol and things like vaping can affect our minds and bodies.
On the Catan team, students have been very busy. In narrative writing with Miss Jewett, students have been writing their own narrative short stories. In narrative reading, also with Miss Jewett, students have been working on learning about theme, mood, and character development. With Mr. Aspinall and his Maine history, culture, and geography class, they have started studying the 16 different Maine countries and their industrial history. In his other class, Maine plants and animals, they are finishing up studies of food chains, producers, and consumers. In 6th grade math, students have been finishing up geometry and starting ratios. 7th graders are starting to work on equations and expressions, and 8th graders are starting to understand linear functions with fun activities. At the middle school's athletics, the girls' A soccer team defeated Spruce Mountain with a 5-2 win, and they are now the champions. And the boys' soccer team got defeated by Buckfield with a loss of 8-3, and basketball starting soon for the middle school, and the meeting about that was yesterday.
finally, in music, for the last couple classes, they have been doing their recitals and original compositions using MuseScore. On December 2nd, the chamber choir will be singing at the Reed Field Library at 6:30 for the tree lighting ceremony. And on December 6th, the winter concert is taking place featuring all 4 ensembles.
Thank you. Middle school, wait a minute, hold on. We might have a question or two for you. I really appreciate the detail that your reports were. That was awesome. That must have taken you a long time and we really appreciate it. So thank you for doing that. Are there any questions or comments from the board, from middle school students?
Great job.
Wonderful job. Great job. Okay, great. You can sit down now. Thank you. And tonight from the high school, we have Abigail. Oh, sorry. You'll have to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Abigail Allen. I'm a junior currently. So I'm going to be discussing with you guys the Senate and Council. So in Council, we've mainly just been discussing the Bear Cave t-shirts and the Black Bear cards that we've been working on for about the last month of trying to get and getting committees rolling on their projects as well as getting companies on board with the Black Bear cards. We have also been successful with getting class reps from each class to represent their class at council meetings and Senate meetings. School Spirit had a really successful homecoming and homecoming spirit week, and that was like kind of their big project of the year, of the beginning of the year until Winter Carnival. So now they're starting to brainstorm ideas for Winter Carnival. Outreach has been very successful starting Make a Difference Week. They hosted an assembly on Friday with a guest speaker of Dennis Price and Miss Tracy. During this assembly, they also played the Price is Right game to get a perspective on how much groceries actually cost. Make a Difference Week is to raise money for goods for the food pantries. This week we were collecting items. Monday was supposed to be paper products, but as we know, we did not have Monday. Tuesday will be canned goods. Wednesday, today was hygiene, and Friday is any item that you can bring. At the end of the week, we're going to tally everything that was brought in, and then the class that brought in the most can vote on a teacher to pie of their choice. Student Wellness cut out ribbons to hand out and made a bulletin board with suns and clouds for Suicide Prevention Month. And Student Voice has been collecting information and tallies to make a student-led assembly hopefully soon, which is basically a staff, student, and school-wide recognition that will be hosted during both lunches, just so we can kind of get together as a group and really recognize each individual group instead of just the assemblies that we have every here and there.
Thank you, Abby.
Hello, I'm Taylor McBurney and I'm a freshman. Field hockey season unfortunately ended with getting knocked out first round of playoffs. For boys soccer, with a good record, was 10-4-2 and advanced to playoffs, sadly ending their season in the first round. With a great record, girls soccer is 17-0-1 and are advancing in the playoffs. XC boys and girls made it to the regionals and XC girls made it to the states. Cross country had a really great year. With regular season record of 5-2, the Marinaccook Community High School football team was knocked out round 2 of playoffs. Volleyball had a very successful first season and is hoping to have club again next year. Golf went undefeated and claimed the state title for Marinaccook. Winter sports start the week November 20th. Theater is set to have opening night of Once Upon a Mattress the 17th, and Friday is the first day that they are running the show all the way through. The Halloween walk was Monday. Students volunteered to put on a haunted woods walk for Halloween as a fundraiser for the junior class. Also, instrumental and vocal musicians were able to perform and get judged by the judges at the District Music Festival in all states. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for that detailed report. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments for the high school?
Exciting to hear. Thank you.
Lots of really good things. Thanks for sharing those with us. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Or you don't have to. So the next thing on our agenda is citizen comments and public participation. So in accordance with RSU 38 policy BEDH, public participation at school board meetings, the following guidelines will be followed. For those attended via Zoom, you will notice that the microphones will be muted except during the identified portions of public comments at this meeting, and this is now at number 5. If you're viewing on Zoom and would like to speak during the comment times, please use the chat feature to notify Diane McGregor, and she will communicate that with me. In-person speakers, please sign up on the sheet on the clipboard that was by the door, but now it's right next to me. If you still want to sign up. All speakers, please identify yourself with first and last name and the town you live in. Priority will be given to individuals who live or pay taxes in our member communities, immediate family members of enrolled students, and employees of RSU 38. Individuals who do not have one of these direct connections to our district may or may not be given permission to speak at the discretion of the chair. We ask that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes, and if someone who has similar views as yours speaks ahead of you, please reference their comment rather than repeat the same ideas. Citizen comments should be addressed to the board and not to the audience. We want to hear from all our stakeholders, and we ask that you be respectful with your constructive comments to the board. I would also like to clarify how we address concerns of the public. In accordance with RSU policy BEDH, we welcome all respectful comments and concerns, and we ask that you not use any derogatory comments or use names of or identifying comments of any district personnel. We cannot discuss specific personnel matters in the public setting, but we can listen to broad concerns folks may have. All speakers are to address the chair and direct questions or comments to particular board members only with approval of the chair. The board will hear and record the comments and questions, but will not discuss the matters at this meeting. Board members' questions must be addressed through the chair. Following the meeting, we will take time to research and gather information on whatever issues have come up. And at the next board meeting, we will follow up with information on the issue. In addition to that, the public is always encouraged to call the superintendent at any time with issues and concerns. So on our list of people to speak tonight, we have Cristobal Alvarado.
Yeah, hi, good evening. My name is Cristobal Alvarado. I live in Reedfield for the last 12 years with my 4 kids. 2 of them are graduates of Maranacook, and I have a daughter in the middle school right now. And I wanted to talk about, some of the objective things that have come out over even just the last month about the damage that has been done to our children over the last 2 years by the policies that were put in place. We have significant, dramatic decreases in standardized testing scores, and in fact, in Maine, probably disproportionately so compared to the rest of the country. Over the last 2 years, any number of parents came to these meetings and said very, forcefully and hopefully, compellingly that, a lot of these policies that were put in place were incorrect. And I think now that we have some objective data, I think what I would like to ask the board to do is to each of you, when you go home tonight, to reflect and say to yourselves, maybe I should resign. Were some of the things that I stood up for the last 2 years actually harmful? And it's not to say that people weren't trying their hardest and weren't putting a lot of effort into it. But I think in the real world, if a football coach wins 1 out of 16 games, he might get fired. If a general loses a war, they get fired. If a CEO goes out of business, they reap the consequences. And I think even the last time that we had elections for school board, a lot of this data wasn't known. And so I think just to show some integrity, I would really like the members of the school board to go and reflect and say, did I contribute to this? And maybe if the best way to go forward is for me not to be participating, maybe the best thing for me to do right now is to resign and let somebody else take my place. So thank you.
Thank you. And that was the only person that we had on the sign-up sheet tonight. Is there anyone online that would like to speak? No? Okay, thank you. Are there any additions or adjustments to the agenda by the board or superintendent? Hearing none, we'll look at the reports, and I think we have a celebration that we're going to hear about. And while Mr. Sorois is going up to the podium, I just want to, once again, I know that Michelle had in her report the fact that the CATSI Capital Area Technical Center named 2 September Professionals of the Month from Maranicook, which we are very proud of. So London Putman and Shiloh Woodford were both named the September Professionals of the Month. London is in the Culinary Arts program and Shiloh is in the Certified Nursing Assistant program. So we're very proud of both of those young ladies. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that they got those awards this month. It's all yours, Mrs. Royce.
Thank you. That's great. So I wanted to share with the board something that I realized in reflecting has just become part of the way that we do business here at Maranicook. But I thought it was noteworthy of a celebration tonight to share with you that this past Friday on October 28th, we had a school-wide advisory day out. 7th grade advisory groups have a focus on community service. We have 11 groups in the 7th grade. So I just wanted to share with you some of the amazing work that was done by our class. We had 2 groups go out into the community and complete yard work for senior citizens that were unable to do so for themselves. Work included stacking 4 cord of wood. Mr. Roderick's wife and daughter were amazing there. They could work through a pile of wood that way. We also completed raking, prepping gardens, weeding, and other various winter prep things for these individuals. Several groups participated in making scarecrows for the Travis Mills Foundation Halloween trunk or treat celebration that they had. 2 groups cleaned up the Reedfield Beach, including raking the weather vane, and at the same time held a bake sale, which raised over $200 that went directly to the food bank. A group visited a 3rd grade classroom at Reedfield Elementary School and read with their students there. We had a group clean up some of our trails right here on campus for the upcoming skiing and snowshoeing seasons. A group organized the food pantry in preparation for all of the food that we're hoping to collect for the food drive. You'll see a lot of it displayed there on our stage currently. A group completed trail and bridge work at Surrey Hill Conservation Area in Fayette. Another group assisted various staff at Fayette Elementary School. And I just wanted to share how proud I am of the impact that our students have on this community, and I'm sure they'll continue to do so through these experiences. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And also please let those students know that we are very grateful and appreciative of all the work that they did on Advisory Day Out. Thank you. Okay, does anyone have any questions about any of the reports that were in our packet? Hearing none. Do we have any report from the Austin Bear Society? I don't know where that. No, that one. Okay.
Yeah, we're working on it.
So the next thing on the agenda is the committees and when the committees are meeting or have met. The first one is the admin staff board evaluation. I just have a question about why they're meeting on Saturday.
Yeah, that is the wrong date. It is the 8th. Yeah, please note that it is the 8th.
Okay.
We'll be meeting, and just so the rest of the board knows, that particular committee, we actually had to cancel the October meeting. One of the, in the statute, when you're revising that, you have to have a committee that has more teachers on it than and administrators. And due to everything that was going on in the district, we only had 1 teacher available and 4 administrators. So we thought it would be better to just wait until this month, and we'll catch up on the 8th with everyone. So just that quick update.
So the communications committee is meeting on the 15th. Is there anything that the communication committee wants to report out to us?
We did a lot of work on the policies. We were checking, we looked at sample policies from other districts. And we thought that less was more as far as the policy went. And we also discussed our last focus group, and we're going to move forward with some more focus groups. We talked about surveys, but we kind of think surveys have kind of run their course. We don't want to do a survey right now. So I think we are going to work on the focus groups and check in staff again and try and move forward in that direction.
Great, thank you. The Curriculum and Assessment Committee met on the 27th. Do we have a report from that committee?
So did you have to, is this like a formal report that needs, okay. I was there and, I just wanted to say thank you to Karen Smith, who just prepared and she's so much information, tolerated a lot of questions for a new board member. And it was just very, thorough but concise, and it looks like you are very, very busy. Lots of good work seems to be happening everywhere, and I'm glad to be part of the committee.
Thank you. Facilities Committee will meet on the 8th. Oh, two committees meetings. Have they met yet?
Facilities met the very first month, that's right, September.
And the Policy Committee will meet again on the first, oh, we already did, that was yesterday. We did meet yesterday. That was it. So Patty, are you going to report out to what we talked
Yes,
about
so
last night?
yesterday we talked about several policies. We talked about the IJJ, instructional library media material selection policy, and we're working on that and getting near to having it be ready for first review. Fair to say?
Very.
Jump in, please. And then we also talked a lot about the one that Rebecca just talked about from the Communications Committee meeting, which is about staff, administrator, superintendent, board communication. And same thing, we're working hard on visioning that and closer than we have been. And hopefully that will be ready for first read after our next meeting.
Yep.
And then we also talked about that one about
The computer.
Yeah. And the camera, I don't know what that is. It's not on here, but we talked about one about staff use of equipment in terms of the laptops that everybody is using and required to use, and if there needed to be changes in policies around equipment use for staff, and that is also in process.
Any questions? And does anyone have any questions of any of the committees? Okay, now we'll move on to our action items. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of October 19th?
I move to approve the minutes of October 19th, 2022 board meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? I have discussion. I saw my name in the minutes as having done something at that meeting, but I wasn't at that meeting. So I wasn't there, so I'm not sure how I did something.
Maybe you had volunteered.
When I wasn't there, maybe. No, it was actually, it said, I read something, but sorry, I didn't.
You were there in spirit.
I was there in spirit, but I just want the minutes to be accurate because I didn't read whatever the minutes said.
Under citizens' comments, I think.
Yes, it was my, when I read my thing about.
Oh,
citizens
that's
comment,
right.
David read it. David read it. Should have been David, not me. So if we could fix that and then vote on that, vote on the minutes as fixed. Okay, is everyone all right with that?
All right, so David G,
Yes.
Jade,
Abstain.
Annie,
Yes.
David's absent, Tyler,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Kelty,
Yes.
and David T.
Yes.
Good, passes, one abstention. Jade, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, can I just ask why you abstained?
I live in there.
Okay, yeah. I couldn't remember if that was it or not. Good abstain. Okay, thank you. Okay, do I have a motion for the acceptance of the donations that are listed in our packet?
Move that we accept the donations listed in our packet.
Second. Any discussion?
David G,
Yes.
Jade,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Kelty.
Yes.
David T.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Can I say something about that? Just to say it in public, I noticed that there are people who are repeat donators and we're so fortunate. We're just so fortunate that people are willing to do that. I just wanted to say that out loud.
Thank you, Patty. Is there a motion to approve the annual approval of the RSU 38 emergency plan?
I move that we approve the annual RSU 38 emergency plan.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
So again, the big binder is available in my office, if you'd like to take a look at it. And if it's okay, with Kathy, I sat in on a couple of presentations last week by the Main Safety Center. So we will be looking to do kind of an overhaul of this going through this year, but this is the document for this current year, and you'll see kind of a revision with their assistance, at the next time I do this next year with you all. So we're gonna do some updates based on information I gathered, last week, so. Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? We can vote.
Okay, David G,
Yes.
Jade,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Kelty.
Yes.
And David T,
Yes.
unanimous.
Okay, so passed unanimously. So do I have a motion for approval of the Capital Area Technical Center Agreement?
I move that we approve the Capital Area Technical Center agreement.
Is there any discussion? Betty?
Are there any changes from last year to?
Are you okay if I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. There's a few minor wording changes that they worked on, through this, summer. The big change, that you'll notice is they did add in a cost sharing formula, which begins on, page 33 of 36 of the packet. I hope I've got that right. And then continues on with an example on page 34. What they did with this is they looked at enrollments, at the Capital Area Technical Center, broke it down by the percentage of students that attend, and then whatever the additional cost would be, the example they have in there is $50,000, then we would pay a portion of that $50,000 based on the percentage of kids that attend from Maranicook for that. This is not something they're looking to do, I just want to say that right away. But they are having discussions about the funding that they get is kind of a floor. And if they ever need anything, they want to have the opportunity to be able to come to us and bring those extra costs forward. And then obviously have a way to fund those extra costs. So that's why they did this. And they really worked on this basically all of last year to get to this point. And from my point of view, it's a very fair agreement. And I know they're very frugal with the Capital Area Technical College. So I don't see it as they're looking to try to, revamp the whole machines and all that kind of stuff. So I feel very comfortable. I was involved in the process. And I think Kathy attended a couple of those meetings as well. So that's why we brought it forth.
Thank
David?
you.
Go ahead.
Betty, did you have something?
No, just thank you.
Okay.
So that change, is that going to bind us in if they do have a system that breaks down? Is that going to bind us into a big cost or?
Only at budget time, like we would only see that going into the budget. So it's not for a sudden expense is the way I would say that. It would have to be something that's planned and budgeted for.
And so they notify us. and then we-
Exactly. Yes. Yep.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay,
Okay. David G,
Yes.
Jade,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Kelty.
Yes.
And David T.
Yes.
Again, unanimous.
Okay, so it passed unanimously. So next on our agenda are some informational items. The first one being a middle school presentation. So before I ask these folks to come down, I just want to remind the board that this is an informational presentation. It's not for a discussion. It's just to hear information from the middle school. If anyone on the board has any questions, please run them by me, and Jay and I will decide if we need further information, and we'll have a follow-up on the questions next time. But this is strictly for information to hear from the middle school. Okay? Okay, you're on.
Good evening. I'd like to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to present to you about multi-age education and the benefits that it provides for middle level learners. We have 4 teachers from the middle school who have worked to put together a Google Slides presentation for you. It is my pleasure to introduce them to you. We have Amy Ryder, Anna Satterfield, Dan Holman, and Jean Roster.
Real sweet. Oh, I'm terrible with microphones. Does that work? Okay. Diane's gonna get us
really need
set
one.
up.
Yeah, Susan teacher voice.
There it is. So we have what is hopefully brief and super helpful presentation on multi-age, and it's focused on 2 things: what we see day to day in multi-age classrooms at the middle school, and what the research supports in terms of middle school education. And we're super excited that you asked us to be here, because we really want to share our expertise and our passion about what we do with kids every day. So thank you for having us. Perfect.
So I'm not going to read the district philosophy to you because I'm assuming that you know it, but we did add it to the slideshow because it drives every decision that we make at the middle school, and it drives every structure we use in day-to-day decision making. So we just wanted to put that up there again as a point that we do follow, and we regard our philosophy often.
Then I get the next 2 slides, and this is where I'll try and be short, but I might get a little long. Okay, so I get to talk about 2 things we see every day. I meant, okay, thank you. I get to talk about 2 things that we see with multi-age learners every day in school that are just fabulous. And the first one is, by having 6th, 7th, and 8th graders with us in one classroom, kids automatically see that kids are at different levels. And what that allows them to do is worry about where they are academically and move forward on their own academic path. In a single grade classroom, kids feel, no matter what we do and what we say, that they should be at the same place as everybody else. And we know that kids aren't. They have different strengths, different struggles. In multi-age, every kid's like, well, that's okay, because we're all different grade levels. I don't need to be in the same place academically or socially as everyone else. And so we're really able to help them focus on their own learning, which is what we want to do with everybody. Right? Not your learning in comparison to somebody else. How many times do you have that conversation with one of your own children, right? You're learning in terms of where you are and where you're headed. And multi-age really sets us up for success with kids that way. And then I get this next one, and then I'll be quiet. The other piece I love, particularly at the middle school level here at Maranacook, we have 6th graders coming up, and it's an enormous transition. The biggest they really do until they go off to work or college. Because by the time they go to high school, they know a bunch of kids, they've been on campus. But middle school is a really big change for kids. By having a multi-age setting, we get to structure them forming relationships with 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders. So instead of being in a school where they're the youngest and they don't know anybody and they're just a 6th grader, they're in my classroom and everyone else's classrooms, and we're structuring those interactions. They're working in multi-age groups so that they get to know those students. They're helping on those projects. They're working on things together. So when they're in the buses and the hallways and the cafeteria, That's not just some sixth grader or some seventh grader. That's the kid I'm doing that presentation with next period. That's the student who's doing this with me. And it changes the culture of our whole school in a positive way. I don't think I did that. And then when kids go to high school, they already have 2 classes of students they know. They're so excited to go back and reconnect with kids that they have met in a personal, structured way.
All right, I'm not going to cause trouble and I'll talk right in the microphone, but recently we put this slideshow together and I was taking pictures of students in multi-age groups, which is not hard to do because that's how they are in our classrooms. And a student was asking, why are you doing this? And I said, well, we want to let the school board know why our classrooms are structured this way. And she said, I have a cousin. And she said, where the cousin goes to school. And she said, they are in straight grade, like her whole class is 7th graders. Can you imagine? And so it's just such an organic disbelief for her because she said, how do they make friends and how do they get help? So for her, the journey through multi-age classrooms, and she is currently a 7th grader, she got a lot of help from older peers last year. And this year in turn, she is providing some leadership for 6th graders who are new to the team. And it just occurs so naturally on our teams and in our classrooms. And it's a great dynamic for human beings. So we do afford this opportunity to middle level students at Maranacook. And so they see leaders supporting them when they're 6th graders, and then they transition to become the leaders as they move through our teams and become 7th and 8th graders. And while leadership and accountability are key aspects of the multi-age structure, we also know that students engage in appropriate age level conversations. Younger students strive to be higher achieving, and they want to see rubrics for finished work that is above their grade level. I always, if we're doing writing, the rubrics for ELA standards are often structured for 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. But I have 6th graders who, can I get a 7th grade rubric? Of course, they want, because they're in those multi-age classrooms, they want to strive and work a little bit harder. So older students also have the opportunity to move ahead, but they're never forced to be ready for content or conversations they're not ready to have yet.
So when kids are working in these multi-age classrooms, they're less segregated, kind of like in the real world. For example, like in the workplace, those with more experience become our leaders, the carriers of tradition and culture. Our 8th graders show the younger kids the ropes, while struggling learners feel more comfortable making mistakes because other kids are at their level too.
My teaching experience here started as single grade. I taught single grade for many years and then have been multi-age since. So I really have lived experience in both. And my experience is that the behaviors and performance of students on the whole is better in multi-age for the reasons I gave, how they can model, feel room to grow. It's just worked better. Our teams apply this knowledge with standardized tests. We just had an aware test, and the teams group the kids in multi-age. It would be easy to have them by their math group. It's a single grade, but the experience we've seen is the length of time kids put on the test, how hard and how long they're working, and their test scores. We do better when they're in multi-age. That's just something about that structure. And so we do that because it's working better. We just completed a 3-day field trip to the Skudik Institute, and it worked well in part thanks to the help of our parents' chaperones. One of the observations from our chaperones after and the staff at Skudik Institute was that our kids were really engaged and behaved very well with a yeah, but. And yeah, but there are times when the kids had more free time and the grades, particularly our older students, clumped together. That was the only time we got feedback from the multiple chaperones and some of the staff that they were having to do, the maintenance and somewhat felt not what you wanted. And it just inadvertently, from the feedback from the chaperones who are not used to the multi-age, they were surprised, but I realized like, oh, that's what goes on.
Okay, so even though we really are passionate about talking about our lived experience with students over a long period of time for many of us, we also want to share some of the research, and all the links are in your packet. So if you want to do that, and in particular, the ones we cited are more recent research, but the research hasn't changed. And here's what the research says sort of broadly, which is multi-age has social and emotional benefits for kids. And those are the benefits we've talked about here tonight because it's what we see. And that academically, the research is it's neither here nor it's there. So that is kids come out either way, single grade or multi-age. We are not here to tell you that multi-age will make kids smarter. But what we are here to say is that what we see and what the research supports is that it helps kids socially and emotionally, and it makes the culture in our school better.
All right, so the research also supports, again, what we see in classrooms with multi-age groupings. We witness every day students working together in positive ways, supporting each other, and also holding each other accountable. And the review of literature that we found that, again, you have available to you if you want to peruse, it points all of that benefit out as well.
It's in this collaborative environment that our students feel comfortable and safe. In fact, in our latest MIAS survey, 93.3% of our students indicated that they feel safe, which is pretty darn awesome. I got from our introduction that we are not to ask if there are questions that you have, but we're happy to share what we have been working on and why we do this with our community. And in fact, we encourage questions because they make us reflect on what we do and why we do it. And it's that reflection that makes us grow as educators. I'm not going to ask if you have any questions you'd like to have answered now, but please feel free to reach out to us, whether it's per email or through Kathy and Jay. We appreciate your time and energy. And if you'd like to see this in action, we'd invite you into our classroom as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thing that I would like to share, this dates back to when our board chair was residing in the principal's office upstairs. I just really want to emphasize to all of you that we're super proud of the NELM Spotlight School recognition that we have achieved. We have been the NELM Spotlight School for over 15 years now, based on what I was able to find. I don't know if it might date back further than that. NELM stands for the New England League of Middle Schools, and we are proud to say that we are the only middle school in the state of Maine to achieve this recognition, as well as one of only 28 schools across all of New England. That is not by accident. Thank you all and have a great evening.
Thank you. I think 15 years sounds about right. So are there any questions that we need more information on, or people want them to consider? Well, Jay's going to write the questions down. Go ahead, Christine.
It's not a question. Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
It's so nice to see some of my kids' former teachers here tonight. I just want to say that they had a fabulous middle school experience. And we've lived and I've worked in 3 different school districts where 2 of them were not multi-age. And it was exactly what my kids needed. And you guys are fabulous. Thank you so much for the presentation and for what you
do. Yeah, Tyler?
I just want to
Tyler?
echo that. I want to echo that as well, having graduated from the middle school. I really found the multi-age education beneficial to my learning, and it's something that I hope we continue going forward.
Thank you, Tyler. Anyone else? So if anyone on the board has questions like after tonight's meeting that you might think about, oh, I should have asked, don't hesitate to either send them to Jay or myself, and we'll do everything that we can to find your answers. Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you all very much for coming. We really appreciate it. It's great to see your faces again. Have a great evening. Or you can stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like. Okay, so next on the agenda is just a discussion of the MSBA Fall Conference and the Delegate Assembly. So. You want to go? Let me show you what Tyler can talk about the delegate.
It might be worth it to have Tyler go first, just so that we know what happened.
So Tyler, can you talk a little bit about the Delegate Assembly?
Yep.
In the
So
resolution?
there wasn't a lot of amendments. There was a couple wording adjustments around. I know the one on taxpayer or participation in school board. There was some wordsmithing that happened, but ultimately everything passed, and Kathy was elected to be a representative. And yeah, it was really informative. But everything passed, and there was only minor wording adjustments via amendments.
Great. Thank you for doing that, Tyler. We appreciate the time that you put into going to that meeting and sharing our voice. So this was I guess it was a 2-day conference, but for both Jay and I, it was more like a 3-day conference, because the day before the conference, there was a board chair workshop and there was a superintendent's conference. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I learned that really will have some impact on us as a board. So I went to a lot of sessions, and there were a lot of them on public participation, citizen comments, how to deal with all the controversial topics that may come up. We've been pretty lucky that we really haven't had too many yet, but we don't know what the future holds. So there was some really good information. A lot of schools from across the state were there presenting things that they have done and they've faced with some of these issues. I think there were over 600 people at the conference. So it was a great conference. So I just have I went through all my notes when I got back and just thought about all the things that I wanted to share with you. And I'm sure there's probably more, but for now, I'm just going to read my short list. So Jade may wonder why I asked her why she abstained, because I've never done that before. But one of the things that came up in the board chair workshop was that when we're talking about issues, especially action issues that we have to vote on, it's really important for every single board member to voice their opinion and to speak and to have an opportunity to say what they really think about any motion that we are voting on. And then when the vote comes, it's really important for everyone to vote yes or no. And if you don't vote yes or no, in my understanding from this conference, it's the chair's responsibility to find out why you're abstaining. And that's a really valid reason to be abstaining. So that in case anybody was wondering about that. And a lot of districts have policies around that, what board members at board meetings have to do. So it was pretty interesting. And actually, the other thing about that is a lot of districts have a norm around the fact that everyone should have an opportunity to speak before the vote. And really, we want everybody to speak. So I just wanted to put that out there if we want to think about adding that to our norms or not. So the other thing was there was a lot of sessions on freedom of access, the act, about how to go about doing that. And listening to other districts, there's been a ton of freedom of access requests from a lot of districts. Luckily, we haven't had, Jay and I were talking about that, because it's a pretty involved process when you have to do that, when someone requests some information. So it's just, getting to know all of those details that we have to go through if somebody does a FOA, that's what they call it, a FOA request. So if we have one of those, we'll have to talk more about that. So another thing in this, I was thinking about the communications committee. A lot of districts have brochures that they put together, or pamphlets or something that really explains to the public and to, the community, what the role of the board really is and how to interact with the board and, what their responsibility of community members are. And I thought, I looked at a lot of samples and I thought that might be a really a direction that we might want to consider going in, just to help people understand more about what our role really is and what it isn't. The other thing is that I found out that as we do our regular board meetings, we can, in order to do them remotely, it has to be an emergency or someone can't make it or something like that. That's when we can do it remotely. That also applies to all committee meetings. So all committee meetings need to be in person. And they should be recorded and put up on the website so that all board members should, this is kind of, I thought it was a very high expectation of board members, but a lot of people are saying that all the committee meetings are recorded, put on the website or wherever they go. And all before the next meeting, all of the board members watch those committee meetings so that they really know what's going on in those committee meetings. But I thought that was a lot, but I thought I just want to put it out there anyway. The other thing is, and I think we've had this in the past, as far as the committee meetings, most of the committees in other districts have a chairperson of each of those committees. We used to do that, a long time ago. So I just thought I'd put that idea out there. And it's just really important for all of us to read the packet thoroughly before the meeting so that we're really ready to discuss the issues that we're going to be discussing. The other important thing when we talked about the citizen participation is that we need to really make it clear to the citizens that are commenting that they're addressing the board, not the audience. So that was that kept coming up. And the last thing that I'll say tonight is that there are several policies that we need to really look at and review in light of the updated statutes that have come out. So we're really, and the policy committee is really starting to take a look at the new statutes and where our policies really line up. And there are quite a few of them and some really important ones that we need to get at, start looking at right away. So we'll be doing that in our next meeting, looking at my list of 10. There you go. And that's it for now. More to come later.
So I'll follow up if that's okay. Actually, Kathy and I were like, where are you going next? And inevitably, we ended up at a couple of the same sessions. So my list is a little shorter, but just wanted to give you kind of a bird's eye view of some of the things from the superintendent's point of view. So like Kathy said on Wednesday, I attended the Superintendent Association kind of workshop. The Maine School Safety Center was there. They had representatives there. And that was what kind of spurred me to go, okay, this is they started their work right before the pandemic. And then they continued working, but because of everything else that was going on, they kind of took a back seat. And as you guys can see from various things going on around the country and in our district as well, we need to take advantage of those resources because they are phenomenal. They have put together a really, really strong team there. And I've already started to make connections with them so that we can start to kind of look internally at what we need to do to increase safety at school. One of the things that I heard from them that really kind of resonated with me was safety is basically essential to the work that we do. So if we're not safe, then we're probably not doing very good work. So that's kind of what spurred me to say, okay, time to get involved with them and time to start looking at what can we do a little differently and better and update. A couple of things that I went to on both Thursday and Friday. One was a superintendent student advisory board. The Brunswick superintendent, who's brand new, shared all of his materials with how he does that. And it's something that I'm definitely looking at, very interested in starting, and we'll be looking to try to get that at least started this year and then expand it going into next year. He was very generous with his materials. So I feel like as soon as I can start working on that, I'm going to. I'll mention the behavioral threat assessment and intervention, again, from the Maine School Safety Center. In light of what happened on Monday, I think that becomes even more important to us right now going forward. But it's basically, the idea is putting together school-based teams that can help address and do, I don't want to say some of the work, but help guide the decision-making process as we go forward. So that was another good one. And then another one that I think is important, and I will be talking with you guys very shortly, is strategic planning. Andrew Dolliff from, he's in the Yarmouth School District, has a very nice plan on how to do a strategic plan in about a year's time, using your stakeholders and not investing $5,000 and $10,000 in outside consultants coming in. So I will be researching it more. Andrew, I've already connected with Andrew. And again, he's very willing to share his materials. So I will be talking to you guys soon about that and trying to get that started probably in the month of January so that we're ready for January 2024, believe it or not, with a new strategic plan that's specific to Maranacook. But it was really nice to see that because all totaled his plan was, I believe he had said somewhere around, it was either $3,000 or $3,500. And most of that was actually for printing costs for when the strategic plan was done. So that was very promising, and I look forward to seeing if we can implement it here. Couple other things, Kathy already mentioned communicating with the public on controversial issues. And of course, our policy committee is working on it, our library and media policies. And I just want to put a plug that we are in very good shape with those going forward. And then one of the last ones I went to was I was a former principal under the superintendent, and he talked about the need to look at what he calls the 3 R's of reality, reimage, and repurpose, and empowering staff to be able to look at some of the previous practices that you have in your school and saying, what's the reality of this practice? Is it really working for you? How can we reimagine it for, going forward into the 21st century? And then how do you repurpose it so it's valuable to staff, students, and obviously parents and community members. So, and again, he's very willing. He was very generous with his materials. So it'll be something that I'll be talking more about with the A team and seeing if we can perhaps start to apply it. So that's mine in a nutshell. Willing to share anything if anybody wants to look at anything, either paper or digital.
So I just had a couple more things, just along the same lines of what Jay was just talking about, is that the 3 R's. I also went to 2 different presentations from 2 different districts who are doing some really cool things with their CTEs and how they are connecting their teachers in their high school with their CTEs. The teachers are going to both places, and the kids in the CTEs are getting credits for ELA and math at the CTE. It was just phenomenal what they were talking about. It's actually Bonnie Eagle was the place that was giving the presentation, and I've got all that information too, which was really very inspiring to think about those things. And then the other thing was that the keynote speaker gave a really powerful speech about trust and how without trust you don't really have anything. And it was really, and he had the 8 different pillars of trust and how we can really develop trust in our district. And it was very, very inspiring to hear the things that he was saying. And there are things that we can and should be doing every day anyway. So just some things to keep in the back of our minds. Anybody have any questions or comments? It was a great conference. It was really awesome.
Was there any conversation about, there have been some recent hear a lot about limiting public and what people, there have been some recent court rulings in Maine, and I think there's another one that's going to be going in front of the Maine Supreme Court, possibly in the U.S. Supreme Court, maybe depending on how far it makes, about limiting people's speech. I think we got to be careful and investigate those avenues, because I'm a big proponent of people, respectfully having free speech. So
there is a district that was actually sued by a person that was not allowed to come back to any
Yeah,
meetings.
that's what I'm.
And
referring to.
the district ended
One
up
of, one of,
having to pay like $40,000 to that person. So one of the thing, in one of the sessions that I went to, one of the lawyers did say, do not tell people they can't come to your meetings. And really, and having a real specific and consistent process that you follow. And it's okay, to have, like, you can speak for 3 minutes, or you can citizen comments just for half hour, and, all the things that I said at the beginning, all those things are okay. It's just that you have to be consistent every single meeting that you have. And it can't be, well, if this person wants to talk about this, we'll give them 10 minutes. And if this person, that's really key too. So there was a lot of that.
I'm not saying none of that's not okay. I just want to make
Right.
sure
There was a lot of
there's a
that, and it's
couple
really.
things in the court.
Oh, yeah, I
There's a
know,
couple
that-
things,
yep,
and
mhm,
I am a big proponent of people being able to
Absolutely. Yeah.
have their voice, and I just don't want people to feel
No.
like their voice is being silenced because we or others may not agree with it.
Exactly. And that was made very clear by the Drummond and Woodson. They did a lot of presentations on that exact same thing.
Okay, well, I was just wondering if that was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Hot topic.
Patty?
I just wonder if, hearing that little bit about the trust, the thing we're just talking about with the pillars of trust, I wondered if that would be information that could be useful to frame the work of the communication committee this year or next, or I don't know if we could,
might
if
be,
people on the
yes.
committee would be interested in looking at that, or I don't know.
We can share what we got about that. So. Anyone else? Okay. Great. So an update on the morale initiatives.
So there's a little kind of one pager that I put in your folders. Just wanted to give you guys an update on where we were and a couple of quick snapshots of what it looked like. I put our response rate there so that you can see we had just a little over 74% of our staff. So that was 201 out of 271 people. I didn't count myself, and I didn't count Dr. Smith in there because we're kind of running it. So, and we are putting it together. So we kind of just bumped ourselves out of that. But I was very pleased with the response. And we did, just for reference purposes, see how much was support staff and how much was professional staff that responded to us. And you can see the numbers there. I know that's really light. We couldn't get the ink to print any darker there. We had it was a little over 20 questions all said and done. But what I did is I put a snapshot of a success because I thought when we looked at it, it kind of rose to the top. One of the questions said, I am treated fairly by my colleagues, and it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 being very satisfied and 1 being very dissatisfied with it. So you can actually see that when we look at the staff, there's a lot of respect and there's a lot of trust. And I think that's why we have high functioning schools is because of the way our staff works with each other as colleagues. So that was like a really nice kind of like, ooh, that's a positive right away. One that was a snapshot of a concern for us is I feel valued for my work as a district employee. And again, using the same scoring system, one of the things that drew my attention was it doesn't look really bad, but if you think of 3 as kind of that neutral response, meaning it could shift one way or shift the other, that said to me that we have a lot of work to do there because that wedge is so big at almost 30%. There's a lot of people kind of hanging out in the middle waiting to see what we're going to do and how it goes forward. So it was one of those that for me kind of rose to the top and speaks to, about being recognized and valued for what you're doing. And it feels like that's an area where we have to pay attention and address in some way. So just wanted to show you that so you could see a little bit of what we're seeing. Didn't want to give a whole lot of information yet because our next steps are to collect qualitative information where we will be asking, we're putting together a set of questions that we will be going out and randomly selecting staff to respond if they would like to. And we're going to randomly assign administrators and train them to go out and collect that information. And then what we're going to do is take that information along with the survey information and combine it together for our next steps, which will be bringing a team together to discuss it a little bit further. But we didn't want to color any responses yet. So you won't see that, but you will eventually get a chance to see more of the information as we go along. So we'll be looking to do that during the month of November. And realistically, it'll take probably a week or two in December to get that process totally complete because of the early releases and holidays, and November is kind of a wonky month, and we're trying to remember that there's parent-teacher conferences this month and all that kind of stuff. So we don't want to overwhelm people, but at the same time, we will kind of chip away at it. It just may take us a little longer than we had wanted, but we want to respect everyone's time going forward with that. So very positive, and it's definitely giving us a direction to work with. And I'm looking forward to the kind of focus group, randomized teams, an opportunity for discussion. That's one of the things that we heard the most from people was it was just quantitative, so there was no room for comments. And a lot of people said, but I want to make comments. So this will give them that opportunity to make those comments, and then we can fold it all in together. So that's kind of where we are right now. And then just wanted to give you guys an update. So of course, Kelty.
Thank you. Thank you for providing this, and I'm really glad to see that turnout is pretty good. That meet your goal, Beth. But I am concerned for the feeling valued.
Yes.
Because 10% very dissatisfied, 20% dissatisfied, that's 30% and better. And then the neutral is 30%. That's 60% of not feeling good. And that is not okay. So I hope that there will be a good way to follow up.
Yep.
I know it's all anonymous, but we've got to have a good follow-up plan to make sure nobody's not being addressed that needs to be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. You can see why it was a concern for
Yeah,
me.
good job. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Jay?
Just have a quick comment. One of the things that's interesting to me when I look at that is, and this might, I don't mean to be nitpicky, but feeling valued for your work as an educator in this culture and climate nationally, I think is really, I just wonder if people, because people feel so respected or treated fairly, to use the word on the survey, by their colleagues, I wonder if this is a more general sort of feeling of society doesn't value the work that I do. You know, maybe it's not as personal as my administrators or the board. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see those comments, and thanks for the information.
Yep.
Anyone else?
So these people are going to be interviewed by administrators.
Right, but what we're gonna do is make sure, well, I say administrators, like we will have like Kate Taylor and Human Resources doing it, but we're gonna make sure like Jeff, I'm gonna use this, I'm gonna use Mr. Boston. Okay, that's okay. We're gonna make sure Mr. Boston is not the one interviewing teachers at Reedfield Elementary School. We'll have somebody different doing that. And I think for, you know, just kind of that, we want to be able to open conversation and get fair feedback. So that's why we'll randomize and we'll make sure that like we don't have direct supervisors doing those interviews. It'll be someone different. So.
All right, that makes it a little bit more. You're going to get the same people because.
Good question.
Yeah,
It's a good question.
Some people aren't shy.
That's right. And some people are.
And to say, I also think valued is somewhat open to interpretation. You can be valued monetarily, you can be valued for your work ethic, so many different things. So that's another thing to think about.
It'll be curious to dig into like to get down into the weeds and kind of parse this out. So I totally agree with you.
Okay, thank you, Jay, for all of that. Appreciate that. So the next thing on the agenda is a little bit of a discussion about our traveling school board meetings. As we had talked about having school board meetings in each of our elementary school or each of our schools in the district. So I'm gonna let you talk about that.
Okay, yeah. So I spoke with Diane about what the possibility of being able to move around the district would be. And we certainly can take some of the equipment, but not all of the equipment. We'll be able to see each other and all that stuff. The thing that's probably going to suffer, quite honestly, is the sound. And that worries me when we were trying to kind of pick dates. Basically, once we hit the new year, we're starting to talk about budget stuff. And I don't want to be in a position where a lot of people will watch our videos after the fact, especially the budget meeting ones. And I don't want them to not be able to hear the discussion that goes on in the presentations that we do. So I wouldn't recommend trying to travel with that. What I'd like to do, and this is what I had talked to Kathy and David a little bit about, but wanted to bring before the full board, is could we piggyback with the communication committee? They're looking to do some focus group stuff. So could we actually do some focus groups and plan an opportunity to kind of have tours and have teachers available through that communications committees and also invite more board members to be part of that. So I was going to approach the communications committee about could we pick some dates that way? They're not official board meetings, but we could piggyback on the focus group stuff at that point. But also do like tours of the school and just do meet and greet, maybe a little informal tours and then more formal with like the focus group stuff. Just because I think we're at a weird time to try to go on traveling roadshow kind of thing for a full board meeting. So that's kind of where I am, but I'll do whatever you guys want me to do.
Any comments on that?
I agree with Jay.
Patty?
I just wonder if I totally get we need the sound to work for the budget meetings 100% with that. I wonder about and I also understand the time crunch thing and how it would work in terms of time better to piggyback. But I just wonder if the focus group thing, I'm just not sure. I guess I want to talk to the communications committee folks and all of you and more about would making some like more larger board thing connected to one of the focus group communications meeting negatively impact the focus group? I'm not sure. I don't know, just a question.
And I think this was just an idea that Jay had, if anybody else has any ideas about how we could get into some schools as a board and just, an informal kind of meet and greet, because we had talked about just doing that, not doing it, piggybacking on the focus groups. But then we were thinking, well, that's one more night. We're asking people to be out and we're just trying to figure out a way that we can involve more of the community without us having to be out every single night. Jade?
I mean, maybe if we're talking about doing all committee meetings in person, having the committees happen at different locations. So kind of rotate those locations. Some of them are, bi-monthly, some of them are,
We could try that, but again, those are supposed to be being recorded.
right, but are they recorded are they set up like this every time? That's another
No,
question.
I don't
So
know.
if
So
they're
that's
not, then
right.
we can look at a
It's something
different way to
we-
record those that probably most of the public is not gonna view. So I mean, if I'm
That's it. I
being
think
completely
that's it.
honest, I think more people are gonna look at budget and things along those
Absolutely.
lines versus, a committee meeting that we have. And so if the audio isn't as great for those, it's not as pressing or detrimental as if people have questions about budget and things along those lines.
Yeah. So that's an idea that we can look at, how that would work. Anybody else have any thoughts? So if you do have any ideas about any of this after we leave, just let Jay or David or I know. We're open, we want ideas. Okay, so one other thing that I heard about at the conference was a lot of board meetings end with board members considering item agendas for the next meeting. So I don't know if we want to, because I'm always asking, anybody got an item? Anybody got anything? Anybody got anything? So I'm just wondering if we want to try to think about that. And I was just thinking, as Jay was talking about the whole safety issues and what we need to do with safety. And I know that other people have brought this up too. I'm wondering if we should put resource officer back on the agenda sometime to talk about that again.
Agreed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like that, please. I voice my vote for that, please.
So is that all right with everybody if we put it on the agenda for just further discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other items that people feel that we should put on the agenda for further discussion in our next meeting or a future meeting?
I wonder if, I think it's great to talk about the resource officer possibility again, but I wonder if really safety is the topic.
Right, it is.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, we need to talk about that
Absolutely.
more.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would be really interested, and I'm not sure the level of involvement that a board member would have in this, but just more information about the threat assessment process and the model that's chosen, just, yeah, period.
Anything else? Okay, Christine offered to observe how we stuck to our norms tonight. Would you like to let us know how we did?
Well, we did great. We shared airtime, nobody interrupted. We didn't even have to agree to disagree, but I'm sure we would have.
Great, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.